Hey guys, it's Mr. Abby coming at you today talking about our world's ocean habitats. I'm really excited about this one because when I was you guys' age, I was just about obsessed with marine biology. I know some of you guys really love marine biology too. Looking at you, Micah. Um, it's a really great topic. There's so many crazy, wild creatures that live down in the oceans, even up in the sunlight zone with all the corals and everything that we're used to seeing, like in Finding Nemo, all the way down to the deep ocean where you've got creatures that use bioluminescence, so they light up their bodies so that they can see around or they can see their prey, they can lure their prey in. Maybe sometimes they use it to avoid predators. Sharks that have been around since before the times of the dinosaurs. Sharks have even been around before trees were around, if you believe that. Um, Absolutely crazy stuff. The oceans are incredible places with all sorts of marine life. Some of the most alien creatures you'll see on this planet, like octopus and cuttlefish and jellyfish that come in all shapes and sizes and crazy color patterns, you'll see in our deep oceans or just in the oceans generally. They're absolutely wild places with crazy adaptations. Um, and one of the really important things to think about when we're thinking about our oceans is that ocean habitats, because as you'll see on my handy dandy globe here again, you might notice that if you look at a globe, we got our continents, they're kind of disconnected, but all the oceans all stay together. All the oceans are connected. So no matter where you are in one ocean, you can always swim around the continents and all the islands and stuff like that and get to any other part of the oceans. And there are a lot of animals that take advantage of that. There are lots of animals like whales that will travel from one part of the earth, maybe around California, to have their babies, and then they'll swim all the way across to Asia or maybe up to the Arctic to eat the plankton or the phytoplankton that grow in huge amounts at certain times of the year. In the summer, they'll go find those uh, huge numbers of these creatures, little tiny creatures, smaller than you could see with a microscope. You'd have to use a really nice microscope to get a look at them. But these little tiny creatures are what some of the biggest animal in the world, the blue whale, eats. Not all whales eat those little tiny animals, but there are many whales. They're called baleen whales, so the ones with the little hairs for their teeth, if you've seen them. They eat those little tiny microscopic things, so they need to go where there are huge amounts of them so they can get enough to eat. So all these animals can will travel from point to point. There are some animals like swordfish, which at in the daytime will come up into the sunlit zone and kind of swim around, do their thing, find prey up there. But they'll chase stuff like squid and everything like that that live in the deep ocean. They'll go down into the deeper levels too. So you've got the different levels: the sunlit zone, the twilight zone, and the midnight zone, depending on how much light each one gets. There are animals that can travel up and down between those zones. And if you remember from my class, we talked about at one point down those deep oceans. They're really hard to get to because that water pressure, it gets really cold too. But the water pressure, all the water that's on top of you, you might have tried to dive deep down the water and your ears will start to hurt because all that water is pushing down on you all directions, including inside your ears. So when you get deeper and deeper and deeper down, you get towards the bottom of the ocean, it's like elephants standing on you in every single direction, sometimes even more pressure than that. And all that pressure would crush you and me. It'd crush most subs that go down there. So they have to build very special deep sea subs to even get down there and see that stuff. A great virtual field trip, if you guys want to take it, is going on YouTube and checking out some of the deep sea expeditions that have happened recently. I believe University of California in Berkeley did a really great deep sea expedition recently where you could see parts of the sub, how it's built, and you get to see the live footage of them going down and finding some of these creatures for the very first time. They say that we've explored more of the moon with how few times we've been up there and how much it takes to get a rocket all the way up to the moon. We have seen more of the moon than we've seen of the deep ocean. oceans on our Earth. So that kind of tells you how hard it is to get down there. There are lots of species down there that scientists have never seen before. We're still learning more about them all the time. We're still naming species every time we go down there. There's crazy stuff like deep sea volcanoes, where there's little bacteria and crabs that live on the chemicals that come straight out of the earth, and there's little tube worms that eat the bacteria that come off them. Absolutely amazing ecosystems. There's all sorts of crazy stuff in our oceans, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. But again, one of the really important things to learn, especially if you want to be a marine biologist, one of the really important things to learn and remember about oceans is again that everything is interconnected. Everything can travel back and forth. I mean, not all the creatures can go all the way up and all the way down, but everything's connected. So anything that dies up in the sunlit zone, or anytime they leave waste or anything comes off of them, skin flakes, whatever, it all drifts down into the lower ocean. It might be hard for us to get down there, but there's a lot of things like when a whale dies and sinks to the bottom, there are huge ecosystems that form around all the stuff that just floats down from the top. And the things down the bottom need those to eat. Sometimes the little flakes and stuff that comes down, they call it sea snow, which is kind of cute. Um, but everything's interconnected. Everything in the oceans uh, from around the southern coast of Africa to far East Asia to the around the United States and Europe, all those oceans are interconnected. So everything that happens in one kind of happens to the others. So when we drop oil in the oceans, when there's pollution and stuff like that, that affects everything across all of the oceans. So again, there's creatures that migrate or they travel from one really far hundreds of miles away to have their babies, and then they go hundreds of miles to get those big blooms of little tiny plankton and phytoplankton that grow in one area. There's animals that travel for food, there's animals that travel for all sorts of reasons. And it's not just the animals that live in the oceans. There are seabirds and stuff like that you'll find that travel from one spot in the globe all the way to the other just to go back to their breeding grounds or find the right kinds of food. Another sad thing to think about that I've got a little extra picture on here for our brain pop or for our quiz is something called the Pacific Garbage Patch. So all the garbage that gets dumped in the world all gets swept around in all the currents until it finds itself in this big patch of garbage. It's about the size of Texas, which is our biggest state. There's a big patch of garbage out by out in the Pacific Ocean, as big as Texas, that's just floating plastic and trash. Um, and we got to think about these things as humans. We got to think about the ways that we're affecting the oceans that have been around for a long time, as long as way longer than we've been around, but almost as long as the Earth has been around. And it covers most of our planet. We got to think about the ways we're affecting the oceans, either by taking too many fish and overfishing, or by putting bad things into the water. Because again, all of them are connected, and what happens in our oceans affects what happens in other countries' oceans, and what happens in other countries, we can't act like it doesn't affect us because it'll always make its way back to us. All the oceans are connected, all the ecosystems are connected. So everything, when we talk about ecosystems, how it's a relationship between the living and non-living things, and everything kind of works together and affects each other, it's very important to think about when we're thinking about those oceans. So that's something I want us to keep in mind when we watch this brain pop and when we start answering the questions, and honestly, when we live the rest of our lives. We want to think about how we interact with our environments, how we interact with the oceans, and how we're changing it, and the ways we can change it for the better. So, again, we're going to get right into our brain pop. And then we've got a Google Forms quiz, which I include a couple little extra pictures in them. One's kind of sad, but we're going to talk about it. So first off, our first question is that most of the Earth is it covered in land, cities, freshwater, like we were talking about yesterday, or saltwater oceans? Ocean habitats are divided or split up into zones depending on the kind of creatures that live there, Are they divided by the countries that each one's near? Is it divided by the amount of light each layer of the ocean receives? Or is it divided by whether or not the plants can live there? A little clue is right in the picture here on the top. I like how this picture kind of shows how the light that passes through the ocean kind of gets less and less as you go down. And if you're a Wild Kratts fan, you might remember the episode about the dragonfish, how they have little red light patches under their eyes. Well, that's because the deeper you go down, red is one of the first colors of lights that's cut out by the ocean water. So it doesn't filter all the way down through. So those little light spots give them invisible headlights that most other fish can't see because they don't need to see red since most red light doesn't make it down that far. They can't see those little red headlights, but the dragonfish can. Now, as you go deeper into the oceans, what happens to the amount of light that reaches the lower depths? Do deeper the parts of the ocean see less of the sun's light? Do deeper parts of the ocean see more of the sun's light? If it's like maybe like a magnifying glass where the top water kind of concentrates it as it goes down? Do plants deeper in the ocean not need light to survive? Or are all parts of the oceans, or do all parts of the ocean see about the same amount of light from the sun? What are some interesting adaptations or features in the mid that in the midnight? Oh, what are some interesting adaptations or features creatures in the midnight zone use to survive? You can pick all the correct answers here. It's another one of those select all that apply kind of questions. Do some creatures have big mouths for eating whatever they come across? Do some plants grow large leaves to capture all the light they can because it gets darker as you get lower? Do some animals make their own light to see or attract their prey, bring it in? Or do most creatures down the midnight zone, are they not that different from the ones up higher in the ocean? Next we've got, what are some man-made threats damaging our ocean ecosystems? Check all the correct answers. Again, select all that apply. You see those little boxes? You just know that you can pick more than one answer, so pick all the ones you think are right. Is one of the big problems for the ocean people taking pictures of ocean wildlife? Are they deep sea volcanic vents or the underwater volcanoes that we're going to talk about in the brain pop? Is it pollution, like I was talking about with the Pacific garbage patch? Or is it overfishing, us taking too many fish out for them to be able to repopulate themselves, make more? Here's that picture I was telling you about. This is just a beach, I think off the coast of the Pacific garbage patch. Again, another sadder virtual field trip you could do is to check out the Pacific garbage patch itself. I tried to find a good picture of it, but it's kind of hard to see in this format. But again, it's a big patch of plastic floating garbage out in the middle of the ocean, um, and it causes a lot of problems for the wildlife. Um, so we have all heard about the problems our oceans are facing between pollution, climate change, and overfishing. What are some ways that we can help protect our oceans? I know you guys don't do a lot of your grocery shopping, but you'll notice that some products you can buy fresh caught animal or like shrimp and stuff like that, or fish um, straight from the ocean, or there might be some where they're grown in fisheries. They have like little fish farms where you can get these things. Um, there's definitely, like they talk about in our brain pop, you can recycle. We can try to reduce the amount of trash we have in the first place, so maybe less of it'll make it out to our oceans. I want you guys to tell me, like, what ways do you think that you could help? Maybe you could teach people about these problems. Maybe you could help try to talk to our politicians, or even become a politician that makes good policies that protect or clean up our oceans. I want to hear what you guys think. Again, this is our extended answer section, so I want to hear all your thoughts on it. I'm running out of time here on this video, so it'll cut me off. It did last time because I get kind of excited about this topic. So again, give me all your thoughts. I hope to hear from you guys soon, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. You guys have a great day.